dropped on a new round of soccer down here. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday here at Soccer's Morning Show. John, here, you there. Got a lot of stuff to talk about this morning with coaching Carousel in Major League Soccer, who's interested in going where, who's possibly interested. Then we have the eyebrow raising that is attached with a couple of names. The eyebrow raising in particular over one situation, and it's not Chicago, because we talked about Chicago yesterday. Another team has announced what they're doing with their coach, at least in the short term. So we'll get into that. We've got all the action from yesterday. We've got the previews of today, because remember, for those of you that listen to Prim and Proper on a regular basis, this is a double match week. And it is a chance perhaps to make up some ground on fantasy, or try to set things around and lose ground in fantasy if you're a guy like me. So we'll go over what happened yesterday. We'll go over the juice boxes for today, and FA Cup and all those other kinds of things. There was news that we didn't get the chance to catch up about yesterday that we'll catch up with today. We did mention what was happening with Reading. I broke the news to Jessica Charman yesterday, and she went, non-surprisingly, radio silent. So, we'll keep an eye on all of that. And so there's stuff to talk about across the board. So opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching on our YouTube channel, on the Twitch, and on the 280-character app. So that is, once again, QR code from our friends at Kickoff Coffee. Thanks to everybody who's kicked off their day. See what I did there? With our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested in youth games and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So that's, it's always great to catch up with all of our friends at Kickoff Coffee and see the work that they're doing and earmarking things. Once again, very, very cool stuff from our friends there as well. Yesterday, we had a couple of moments on the national team scale. And next time Bart is on with his morning four card, next time Bart is on with us, obviously we'll go over in more detail what happened with the U.S. team, and traditionally you end up with, folks that, they get their hometown appearance and the hometown love. And Jaden Shaw got that last night. And we'll go over the numbers in just a little bit. But it was a win nonetheless for the United States. They won 2-1 over China on a Shaw winner. And the bigger news last night, and I know that for those of you that might have been watching USA and China and wondering why Luke Wildman was not on the broadcast last night on Max or on the English-speaking side of things, is because he was back home and he was calling Christine Sinclair's last international match. And you look at the numbers for Christine Sinclair, and they are just mind-blowing when you look at everything that she's been able to accomplish in her career. She lasted 58 minutes. 58th minute, she was substituted by Sophie Schmidt. And it's kind of, you take a step back for a second and you realize that Christine Sinclair played until she was 40. 40 years old. Morning, Abby. And in front of 48,000 plus that BC plays. And thankfully, they opened the upper deck to give Christine Sinclair as the opportunity for as many folks to see Christine Sinclair retire as humanly possible. Sophie Schmidt comes in. She gets the captain's armband. They made it was a nice sending off and a nice passing of the torch with the armband going off of Christine and up the arm of Sophie Schmidt. 190 international goals. 190 international goals in her career. 331 senior appearances. I mean, think about it this way. If you're looking at Christine Sinclair, senior appearances for Christine Sinclair, you were basically a month shy. You had 11 months if you played soccer every day internationally for an entire year. You played for 11 months out of that year nonstop. Like every day for 11 months, Christine Sinclair plays internationally for. I know she didn't, but I mean, if you extrapolate the numbers, she played for 11 months straight in a calendar year. Christine Sinclair's international career took up 11 months of it. You go from January 1st to 30 days, says September, April, June, and November 30th. January 1st to November 30th, basically. No, like Thanksgiving, because 365 and you subtract that's a 34. So late November, like the 27th or 26th or something. So like just Black Friday. Christine Sinclair goes from January 1st to Black Friday on a calendar if you take her international career and tell her that she's playing every single day. 313 starts in those 331 appearances. So you're into 365, 52, 30. You're into early November. You're like November the 8th. You take a calendar and you take all of the pages. You can just go ahead and take everything from January 1st to November 1st and put Christine Sinclair's name all over it and put the pages away. Playing every single day in a calendar year, you get to like November the 8th, and that's when you stop starts for Christine Sinclair. Then you get to Black Friday, and that's when you stop the appearances. Christine Lilly is the only person who has more international caps at 354. So that takes Christine Lilly to just before Christmas to explain what kind of career Christine Lilly had. 313 starts, 331 appearances, 27,000 minutes, 27,601 minutes for Canada. That's what Christine Sinclair did. The face of Canadian women's soccer, and I think, frankly, at times the face of Canadian soccer until this recent generation of folks on the men's side. But I think for a long time, the face of soccer, period, in Canada. Pre-game ceremony. BC Place Stadium was renamed Christine Sinclair Place for the night. Neon flags outside. Justin Trudeau does the pre-game social media post. But think about what Christine Sinclair has done. You had an honor guard for her as well. Karina LeBlanc, Diana Matheson, Marie-Eve Nall, Carmelina Moscato, Desiree Scott, Melissa Tancredi. 3 players, they were given framed jerseys by Canada Soccer President Charmaine Crooks and Jason DeVos. And when Katrina LeMay-Doan says you're truly a national treasure, she's not wrong. Thinking about what Christine Sinclair has meant to the sport, she requested 145 tickets to the match. 145 tickets. She was running out, apparently. 43 family members alone of the 145 tickets requested. Attendance was the largest ever for a women's national team friendly in Canada. Well above the Game 3 with Vancouver Game 2 with Vancouver and LAFC, where they had 30,204. 7th largest crowd ever for a Canadian national soccer team match. Played before an announced crowd of 54,000 plus at the World Cup when they lost to England in the quarters. Sinclair and the Canadians took pregame warm-ups to Jefferson Airplane. Sinclair wears a 13, Sophie Schmidt's number. Everybody else wore the number 12. A lot of 12s in the stands, no real surprise. A pair of boots arrived early in the day for Sinclair from Nike's factory in Italy, complete with the number 185, the record-setting goal she scored in January in the win over St. Kitts and Nevis. Other personal details: 20 Canada Soccer Hall of Famers, more than 50 internationals on hand. Sophie Schmidt's final outing, by the way, at 226 caps. Get this. Christine Sinclair was 16 when she made her senior debut. Okay, yeah, cool, fine. Yeah, she was 16. She's not the only person to be 16 when you make a debut. March 12th, 2000. March 12th of the year 2000, Christine Sinclair makes her debut at the age of 16. Canada loses to China in that match for your trivia. Then in a loss to Norway, she scored her first goal 2 days later. Olympic gold, bronze, and bronze. So 2 bronzes and a gold for Christine Sinclair in the Olympics. Canada Player of the Year 14 times, 6 World Cups, scoring in 5. She's going to play one more season with the Thorns. Schmidt and McLeod, who plays at Sjarnan FC in Iceland, they're going to continue playing club football. So next season in the NWSL, go see Christine Sinclair in Portland. Go to North Carolina, because it's going to be one of those tours that we always get to see when it comes to, like Kareem, or you get the retirement tour, and then every location is going to end up giving you the all of the gifts, like the rocking chairs and all those jokes. But 16 when she started. Yeah, okay, great. You knew she was going to be right there for Canada. March 12th in 2000. That's what Christine Sinclair has done since March 12th, internationally, since March 12th of the year 2000. She has done that and been that kind of part of the fabric for soccer in Canada, not just women's soccer, but soccer in Canada and soccer worldwide. And if you missed the salutation by Ryan Reynolds is looking forward to having Christine Sinclair be that next piece to get Wrexham over the top. Christine Sinclair apparently is an unabashed fan of Wrexham. And so Ryan Reynolds, trying to make sure that he can bring in Christine Sinclair. But Christine Sinclair's international career comes to a ceremonious stop at BC Place last night. 331 senior appearances, 313 starts, over 27,000 minutes. Playing longer than the Abstermobile and older than the Abstermobile. So Christine Sinclair, fantastic career internationally as well as domestically. But the international career comes to a close last night in front of a big crowd in BC at BC Place. So that's opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase, and they in turn take 10% reinvested in youth games and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right. There's a lot of news in and around Major League Soccer this morning. And a lot of it has to do with front office stuff and signings and all of that. So what we'll do is we'll take it a team at a time and go through the interesting news of the AM. And I guess we could start with what Michelle Kaufman and everybody was talking about yesterday. And no real surprise, but we seem to be getting closer and closer and closer to a deal where Luis Suarez is heading to be a part of Messi and Friends next year. Like I said, no real surprise, but now you're thinking of, okay, Lionel Messi finalizing a 1-year deal to reunite. You get that long-awaited holiday gift. Luis Suarez expected to join the club in the coming weeks after playing his last home match for Gremio and giving the farewell. According to multiple sources, according to Kaufman, with knowledge of the negotiations, A deal is imminent. Suarez has not yet agreed to terms or signed anything because Gremio still has their season finale on the road at Fluminense this week. Teammate at Barcelona, one of his closest friends, expected to sign a one-year deal, could be slotted as a DP, or the club could use TAM to keep the salary below the DP threshold, keep that slot open for another player. Clubs have until late February to make late roster decisions. All teams are allowed up to 3 DPs. Once again, just so we all get our numbers straight, whose salaries can exceed the league's maximum salary budget charge of $651,250 last year. Clubs can use annual TAM allotments to bolster rosters, buy down existing contracts to open space for new high-priced players. In 24, the TAM amount available is $2.4 million, which would allow Inter Miami to add Suarez to Messi, Busquets, and Jordi Alba. Suarez turns 37 in January. Played in the final home game in the Brasileiro on Saturday, scored the game's only goal against Vasco da Gama, did the lap around the field to say his goodbye, joined by his wife and 3 kids in the middle of the field for the emotional ending that he got. Posted a message to social media after the match, quote, "My family and I want to thank everyone for the love, and we lived it in the Arena do Grêmio. It was an incredible, unforgettable day that we will take to our hearts forever." And you can go on the 280-character app and go to @LuisSuarez9 and see it all. But Luis Suarez, in the rain, and his wife and his 2 kids, they were under a rather large golf umbrella, by the way. Joined Gremio in 2023 on a 2-year deal, but once Messi signed with Miami, rumors intensified Suarez would join him. Negotiated a deal with Gremio to let him out of his deal a year early. Although he's been battling chronic knee issues and recently told Uruguayan radio station 890 Sport he takes pills and injections to manage the pain, he played 52 matches this year. 52. 4,557 minutes, 15 goals in 32 league games, 24 goals, 17 assists just during all comps. 41 goal actions in 52 games, 4,557 minutes. That's how crazy the league is to begin with. Gremio's club membership season tickets spiked from 60,000 to more than 100,000. Suarez made the team a contender, fan base energized, according to Kaufman. But we all know that Suarez has long been linked to wherever Messi goes. They played together for 6 years from 14 to 20. Asked a few weeks ago about Suarez's long-rumored move to Inter Miami, Chris Henderson says, quote, "He's currently with Gremio, so we don't want to comment on a player who's not on our roster. He's a player who always has been linked with our team, and it's great to have players around the world connected with Inter Miami and wanting to come here." How's that for a non-committal committal? Because, I mean, you can't say, you can't sit there and go, it'd be fantastic. We're looking forward to getting Luis Suarez from Gremio. It's going to be great. It's going to be a fantastic 1-2 combo with Suarez and Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba and Sergi Busquets. All that. You've got all of those dudes plus Kremoski and the growth that's been there. I think that they probably should address things at the back, perhaps. But, you bring in the younger players, too, that are attractive to the idea of playing with a Lionel Messi and a Luis Suarez. Not a surprise that you see those younger players drifting in as well. But the key, once again, for Inter Miami, managing minutes, first and foremost. Trying to figure out what the location is and, who's going to start where and when, and look at your schedule and all these kinds of things, and juggling the multiple competitions as they tried to do with Tata Martino last year. Managing minutes. Disappointing folks when you buy tickets ahead of time and then the schedule dictates that guy needs a rest. which Lionel Messi is doing currently until the beginning of the calendar year because of the the uh, the muscle injuries that he's had to nurse toward the end of the Inter Miami season, and then especially four card, all the injuries that are being nursed and everything. Four card with the prominent opinion on Luis Suarez, tam my ass, and I mean four card probably the way and I have no intimate knowledge of this whatsoever. I have no knowledge of it, but think about it this way: you end up with Luis Suarez coming to Inter Miami, and it's like, okay, he's a TAM player, and that's probably what I've seen other reports that are saying Suarez is going to be TAM, and much like a lot of other folks that have worked their way into this league, you wonder how it's going to fit. You absolutely wonder how it's going to fit. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with with Luis Suarez. But as of right now, the understanding is that it is not going to be a DP deal. But I can guarantee you that everything else attached, and Nick Leafy, I will give Nick credit. He basically said, yeah, he'd be a TAM player, but he won't have to worry about anything involving room and board or lodging or transportation or anything else in that regard. That will be taken care of. All of the incidentals, he ain't got to pay for nothing. You can bet that the Moss brothers probably will have multiple locations for the Suarez family to sit there and choose from. Hey, would you like to be here on South Beach or here on Key Biscayne? We'll rent it for you. Or shoot, if you want to stay here, maybe there's a place you'd want to buy. We'll help you with that. Rich Ransom, need the Apple renewals. Hell, find a way to sign to Miami. Yeah. He'll find a way to sign to Miami. Absolutely. Yeah, and then I mean, think about it. Once again, what did Apple TV do involving Lionel Messi and transportation to Fort Lauderdale? That's taken care of. It's probably going to be in one of those big Chevy Suburbans with the tinted windows and everything, and he doesn't have to worry about driving from point A to point B. He doesn't have to worry about getting lost. Trust me, that ain't going to happen. But I mean, what did Apple TV do with Lionel Messi? What did they do? They created their own separate section. I mean, even if Messi wasn't playing, then Messi's at the front page or the top of the headline somewhere. He's the header. Every time you clocked into Apple TV and hit the arrow right bar and you went from the programming to MLS, MLS is up. And Lionel Messi, front and center. Lionel Messi will still be front and center next year. But you can bet that 1B will be the rest of the crew there at Inter Miami. Sergi Busquets, Jordi Alba, Luis Suarez. You'll have people following Luis Suarez, all of Luis Suarez's greatest hits. Inter Miami will be front and center the entire season. And if you're Apple TV, that's what you ride. Lionel Messi got you all of those subscriptions. Lionel Messi got his piece of the pie. He will continue to get his piece of the pie to drive folks up. But I will posit this question. What happens a year and a half from now when there is no Jordi Alba, when there is no Sergi Busquets, when there is no Lionel Messi and he turns into an ambassador? When Luis Suarez's knees finally sit there and go, bro, we're done. What happens then? What do the Moss family and David Beckham do for the encore? Do they continue this cycle? I don't know, Abby. That's a good question. As season ticket holders, will we still continue to get Major League Soccer for free on Apple? That's a good question. I don't know, and I admit that because I'm coming at it from the perspective of not being a season ticket holder, I could probably ask other season ticket holders if they've heard one way or the other, but I have not heard. I do not know. But what happens? What happens when okay, so Rich says yes for the union season ticket holders. So I guess we can extrapolate that yes, yeah, all for one, one for all. So Apple pulls the plug on MLS. Apple pulls the plug on MLS. Yeah, I mean, in 2.5 years or a year and a half, what does Miami do for an encore? Do they bring the big stars in? Do they continue to do that cycle to kind of feed the beast? Let's see, in 2 years, who would be in 2 years someone who is north of 30 and a stud? Luka Modric? Although Luka Modric would be close to 40 at that point. Who in that Real Madrid Saudi Pro grouping do they continue to sign? Once Messi's gone, what do you do for an encore? Once Messi and Suarez are gone, what do you do for an encore? Rich, Miami just continues to sign names. The Galaxy still try and do it. Yeah, but the names they sign, Rich, LAG, they got problems. They signed they took some duties away from Greg Vanny yesterday, by the way. We'll get into that in news and notes. But do you continue to feed the beast and go down this cycle, or do you rely on the younger players? See, now Wiley thinks it's Erling Haaland. It's going to be so awesome in Major League Soccer by then. Haaland is coming. Yes, of course. Erling Haaland is coming. They'll fight Real Madrid for it and bring in these large names. And Haaland would be, well, I mean, or does Erling Haaland come in like 2035 when he's in his mid-30s? Do we have to wait until the end of the Apple deal for Erling Haaland to be paid for by Apple TV? That's the question. But yeah, I mean, Rich, the Galaxy keeps signing names, but they just keep signing the wrong names. Galaxy, you're just, I mean, Douglas Costa. I mean, and what are they going to do this year? I mean, the Galaxy, you know, when we get into training camps, it's going to be really interesting. And that's about a month away, by the way. When we get into training camps, what are these teams going to be doing in the January window to try to fix the issues? Rich maintains it doesn't matter. It's about getting the player on the field to get butts and seats. Wins don't matter as much as money clearing. But I wonder, Rich, in LAG's case, because they're not winning and they're not getting seats, butts and seats, I wonder where they are financially right now and how pissed off AEG is about the lack of success in Carson and continuing to spend bad money after bad. LAG for me is going to be one of the interesting case studies this year. What do they do? You don't have Chicharito anymore. Douglas Costa, what do you do? Like I said, they've got a new hire. We'll get into that coming up in a bit. Emilio, I don't know if Miami goes back to being irrelevant. I think what they do, I mean, it will be an interesting financial question for the Moss brothers and everybody there in Miami. If Lionel Messi turns out to be this, boon that they anticipate and not a boondoggle, do you continue to go down that path and just, I mean, I'd love to know the total investment. What did they say? Close to $50-60 million a year. But how much of that coming from the Moss brothers? And I wonder, when it comes to the Moss brothers' fortune, how willing are they to continue to go down this rabbit hole, bring in the next big thing, and do this on a. I know it is absolutely Enter Fort Lauderdale. It is absolutely IFL. Yeah, they've got to build the stadium first at Melreese before they can be before they can be correctly referred to. Yes, Inter Fort Lauderdale. Absolutely correct. It is Inter Fort Lauderdale until further notice, or Messi and friends, or both. But you wonder. I'd love to see the books. I know we'll never see them, but I'm wondering what after this 2-year period or this 2.5-year period, what the financial hit will be on the Moss brothers, and if they operate at a loss or if they actually do break even on this whole venture. I think that would be interesting. And we know that, and I know that you guys are having the discussion about Apple and breaking the deal and all that kind of stuff. But there were talks. You'll remember there was some information floated out there that if MLS didn't meet certain metrics, that Apple could dump the deal. Don't know what that metric is, or don't know how poorly the product would have to perform for Major League Soccer to be bumped off of Apple TV. But I do think, to Rich's point, Rich says that you can't break the contract, but they'll sign another league like the Bundesliga, put all their effort into that, slowly phasing out Major League Soccer like NBC did with Major League Soccer and the Premier League. What I could see involving Major League Soccer, now, like I said, I don't know what the metrics are, but you do wonder how much Major League Soccer is going to try to continue to do whatever it takes to stay on Apple TV. What's the metric? What do we need to do? What are the numbers we need to hit? And so since this is it is a subscription based model where you're getting a cut from every subscription and all that kind of stuff. And yes, obviously when you sign Messi, you get the boost of the numbers that you get. It makes you wonder just out loud when it comes to the financials of the deal and where this partnership is. Yes, Apple TV and MLS said all the right things after year one of this deal. Emilio, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I would think that as you get into training camp, that you would have, Emilio is asking, sorry, should there be some announcement soon by MLS to the teams regarding loosening financial restrictions and adding DPs? In theory, yes. But remember, we didn't get the new playoff format until like a week into the regular season, if I'm not mistaken. So I would anticipate going into training camps, you would have the information that you need to operate correctly or fully heading into your training camps. MLS All Access, here we come, $19.99 a month and all the technical difficulties. Well, and that is something that we also need to kind of discuss going into season 2 of this, is what should be addressed. How would you grade? We'll go ahead and put it on the floor. How would you grade Apple TV's coverage of Major League Soccer? You can go whatever scale you want. You can go A through F, 1 to 5, 5 being the best. What you liked, what you didn't like. And this is probably going to be a continuous conversation that we'll have. Oh, yeah, no doubt, Amelia. Yeah, training camp is too late to start to get the information that you would need. Teams need to strategize. Yeah, I think teams are strategizing now, and they're waiting for, they're not waiting for the announcement to be prepared. Any good front office is already looking at how to advance and how to add the pieces that they're looking for. I mean, regardless of what the rules are, you're always looking. You're always looking. If you're worth your salt as a front office, you are always trying to figure out how you can improve. And you're trying to figure out what your budget is. You're trying to figure out what you can spend, where you can spend it, how you can spend it, and who you're chasing after. Like we were discussing yesterday when Seattle said that they were in, it was talks that Seattle's in discussions for the number 10 at Lanús, which I thought was an exclusive Atlanta United thing. But Pedro de la Vega apparently is in discussions with Seattle and others. Abby grading MLS season pass at a 5 on a scale of 0 to 10. So tell me what you like, tell me what you didn't like, tell me what you'd improve. That's the part of this whole thing. So on Apple TV, MLS season pass, grade it for me, pick your scale, what you liked, what you didn't, and how you'd fix it. It's an A by 2021-22 standards, but next year is 2024. So 4-card is there. But yeah, so let me know what you thought. We'll grade it and we'll go forward and we'll try to workshop it like we always do. Here's my thoughts. I was cool with it, with season pass and everything. I still want a visitors radio option first and foremost. And I think that that's going to be looked at as one of the higher priorities next season is Apple TV and a visiting team radio. For the teams that, because all you're doing is you're taking an extra line out of the booths upstairs and running it into the truck. So that line into the truck, you need to make another pathway. But so you need to make another pathway to get the product out of the truck and into the stream and into the grid that is Apple TV. And so Abby's in the Abstermobile, and she can't put all of her thoughts in now. So she might be speaking into her phone at traffic lights as we go. Emilio didn't watch a lot since he was at the matches. Did like it overall, more coverage than Bally's. So my biggest thing, obviously, is visiting audio. You need to have that. And having that as an option, I think, for those teams that go on the road, I think it's a benefit because then once again, you're getting folks engaged and you're getting to listen to what you want to listen to. If it's the national guys, great. If it's home radio, great. But visiting radio needs to be a part of it too. But integrating that extra line out from upstairs, yes, more coax and Ethernet cables. But 4-card, you go from there. It is wondering the idea is, can the production truck that is on site handle that extra audio line and that extra output to the head end of the production arm and have it go out the way that it's supposed to? That's the key. Getting plugging in another cable down to the production truck should not necessarily be that big of a deal. But getting it from the production truck to Apple so Apple can have it as an option, that is what you're staring at. The capability of the production truck to have that separate dedicated line going in the same direction as everything else, and so you're not crossing streams or anything like that. Take out a field mic. Nah, you want the field mic. You want the immersive experience. Rich, honestly, can I not have it? My season ticket package. It's not free, and I don't even watch it. So Rich doesn't even want it in his season ticket package. Watched maybe 5 away games this season. But Rich, you can give it to friends and they can watch. It can be a friendly experience. Just sit there and say, yes, I'll take it. I will enjoy my Apple TV. And then have friends watch or something. Just have friends watch it. Emilio is okay with national points of view, feels like the NFL. Yeah, and that's part of it too, getting into the national points of view. What I saw, what I would like is for, and this is, I'm fairly certain, pie in the sky. I would like for those who are presenting on air, if you're going to talk about a topic, please do your research. And don't just shoot off the hip and say something pithy and attempt to be cute about it. If you're going to have an honest and earnest discussion, please have your knowledge there with you. When it comes to the on-air product, 9 minutes after, I get it. One of the things that always bugged me is looking at, and I know that formations are overrated, but when you have graphics up at the beginning of a match and it's not the right formation, and it's consistently not the right formation. It's not what you're putting up on the screen, and you're being misleading to you're being misleading. You're misleading your viewers and your guests. Have your facts straight. I know formations are overrated and bordering irrelevant these days, but when you're trying to present who's starting on a daily basis, have something akin to the proper formation on the screen. That's all I want when it comes to that. When it comes to the product itself, where you would have on an MLS 360 had some iterations in year one. It started out with the hosts, when you would do the whip around portion, and this is not the pregame portion because we've already talked about that. Pregame, all that kind of stuff. The ancillary programming, if there's somebody there, pronounce the names correctly, the players. If you're on a national platform, please. When it comes to the 360 format, it started out with the four hosts, whomever they were, staring at a large monitor bank behind them. They would be standing facing the camera, and then they would all turn their backs to look at, hey, let's go to this game. That was kind of off-putting when they started to do that. And there was too much talk in the studio and not enough tossing to the local announcers. If you're going to do a whip around program, it should be less about the studio folks and more about what you're doing locally. It was, Emilio, there were some rather unique pronunciations across the board. Yakamakis was one of them, yes. Forkard doesn't want to be stuck with TT or Messi love. But as the season went along with 360, what you saw was it evolved. They ended up going from standing to sitting, and then they would toss, and then you'd have studio discussing things, and then you would drift in. I don't think you would drift in enough, though. It's like, hey, here's what's going on, and then you would, either duck out to a goal on tape or duck out to live action. They needed to do more of that, and I needed to hear more of the local announcers last season. More local announcers, less studio, but I know that's not what studio is for. Maybe what you need to do is separate that one more time and literally treat it as almost like a red zone channel or a red zone option where you have a host bouncing from game to game to game, where you have the 360 folks doing the 360 thing. You've got the four shot. They're talking about the games. They drift in, drift out. That hardcore red zone option, which is what I don't know if 360 was trying to be or not, was not hardcore enough for me. And I needed to hear the local announcers more. This is not any kind of a slight to the four hosts, whomever they were, but it's just how it was formatted for me. So that, to me, needs to change. I need to hear more local, less national, if you're going to do that. If you're going to have a talk show, have a talk show. If you're going to do red zone, do red zone. Don't do a red zone talk show. Rich, just fix the game scheduling. Fans know when game times are, or they'll find out. Owners and Apple just need to have more game times. And in the playoffs, you got a little bit of that, but I think, once again, what you're trying to do is make sure that your East Coast audience, your Eastern time zone audience, and possibly some of your Central, because that's where you're looking at what? More than half of your Nielsen audience or your viewing numbers, East Coast, Central time zone. The Mountain time zone and the Pacific time zone probably should have their own thing. And getting that 10:30, I get it. So I understand why you have all of those games at 7:30. I know maybe you should have some sevens. You have some sevens, have some eights. And I know that watching all of those 7:30s, and this is another thing. I don't know if I could find it, but I need a multi-box. I need a multi-box option if you're gonna have all of these games, like Red Zone has it on, I think, on the DirecTV option. And Scott Hansen, when he does NFL Red Zone, will actually toss to an Octobox or whatever, but you don't have the option of watching in that Octobox. I'd like to think that there's an option in there somewhere where you can sit there and have all of the multi-view. Like I said, maybe I missed it considering I'm not technologically advanced, but if you had a multi-view option, I think that would help out as well. But I get why you did the 7:30s. You wanted to have that time slot. I still think you could have Friday nights, but that's just me. If you had Friday night football, no offense to my high school football brethren, especially in the summer and the fall, but if you had Friday night football and you had you had a pregame show from 7 to 7:30, you had a game at 7:39, you got out of there by 9:30, 9:40, you filled at 10 o'clock, you get your doubleheader game in at 10 o'clock on Friday night. You got a Friday doubleheader to get you into the weekend. That's what I would like to see. But I understand the idea of a 7:30 so you can monopolize that time slot on the Eastern and Central time zone. But I get the idea of wanting to have a 7, a 7:30, and an 8. I get that. I understand why they're doing it. Will they broaden out their horizons, I guess, is the larger question. Will Apple TV schedule some 7s, schedule some 8s? Or is it going to continually be up to the secondary carrier to sit there and do that 4 o'clock game or do a 7 o'clock and simulcast it with Apple, which to me kind of got a little confusing at times. It's like, oh, they got the same video feed. Great. Who do I want to watch? 4 Cards petitioning for Friday nights and Sunday nights. You want a Sunday doubleheader, or you just want the one game and turn it into Sunday night football, Sunday afternoons? But then you get into the whole NFL thing, and I think that if you're Major League Soccer, you don't want to go up against the NFL, and I think that's why they're shying away from Sunday nights and Sunday afternoons. They want to stay away from the National Football League, knowing that National Football League is going to give you 12 months of content every single year. They want to avoid that. That's why I maintain 4-card Friday night. Friday night doubleheader to get you into the weekend. And then as the number of teams grow, how many matchups can we have in any given weekend here? With teams coming in, all right, so 15 in the East, 14 in the West. So let's say, all right, so 30. You got 15 matchups. You have, MLS is already going up against college football, but college football Saturdays, especially at night, I think that's more colloquial. I think you can get away with a college football Saturday, where it's important here in the Southeast, but the rest of the country, it's not. Well, I shouldn't say that. The B1G with everybody that they're assimilating these days. Out west, it's not as big, college football. So if you did the late night game out west at 10 o'clock, it'd be 7 o'clock local time, and you could do something there. So you need Friday nights. You need a Friday night doubleheader. So you've got 15 matchups. 15 matchups that you can have in any given week when San Diego comes online. 16 when you get to 32. So if you have 2 matchups on Friday, you do a Friday doubleheader. That takes you down to 13. You break up your matchups in the East and the West. 13, maybe what? 8 or 9 you schedule as a part of that Saturday window. Then that leaves you with 4 that you could flex out someplace. Do the Sunday afternoon game for the secondary carrier. That 3:30, 4 o'clock kick. But, yeah, 4Card says you only overlap the NFL for like 8 to 10 weeks. But, once again, first year of a television deal with Apple. I don't know. I think you wanna try to set your own identity. And I think by trying to find the free space, I'm just thinking this through, 4Card. I'm not taking a side here, uh, when it comes to scheduling. But I'm thinking that as you are a new product and a new network, I'm trying to think of this like a television programmer. If you're a new product and a new network, you wanna try to set your own space. That's why you wanna try to monopolize the 7:30 start time and the 10 o'clock start time, or the 10:30. You want Saturday night to be yours. Trust me, I get the idea of staggering times. But as a television programmer, I'm trying to monopolize the night that I'm on. That's why I think you should still do a doubleheader Friday night. Football Friday in America, since football night in America has been taken by the Peacock on Sundays. Your football Friday. Do your doubleheader there, then figure out what you want to do with the other 13 matches in any given week. Like I said, 13 when San Diego comes online, then we get to 30 teams. That's what you're navigating here. That's kind of what you're thinking at. It's like, okay, if I was in charge of Nelson Broadcasting, that's what I would do. 7:09 consistently. And I mean, I get them trying to be different because traditionally Emilio is asking about 7:09. Traditionally, start times are either an 05, an 06, or an 08. An 05, an 06, or an 08. And so trying to come up with, once again, something different, you get the 09. If it's a 7:09, if it's 7:09 consistently or 7:39, whatever it is, figure out your doubleheader. If it's 7:09, it's got to be 10:09. Well, 4Card, you're close. OSG Sports does do college football programming, and you can download our app and listen to our programming in Spreaker as well. We do college football stuff on a weekly basis. We do post some shorts on YouTube, and we have a weekly show. But 7:09 means to me 10:09. Yeah, and so Emilio wants to move things up to 7:09 as opposed to 7:39. I could, once again, I can see that. That's perfectly fine with me. Whatever that 7:09, if it's 7:09, it's got to be 10:09. If it's 7:39, it's got to be 10:39. Or if you really want to cram things together, I have no problem with 7:39, 10:09. If you want to go 7:09, 10:09, great. Just make sure that you're in uniformity so you can keep those time slots. What time slots do you want to own? I think you need to own the 10 o'clock on Saturday nights, and therefore you got to figure out if you want to do 7:09 or 7:39. And I know that in older demos, you might like the earlier games of the 7:09 variety. I get that. So Major League Soccer's got to figure out what they want to do. Is it 7:09? Is it 7:39? Do you stagger? 10:09 would be my West Coast. And I know that some folks want to do 10:39s and all that kind of stuff. But those are the key things for me. All the inside studio stuff comes down to hosts, knowledge base, and formatting of the shows. Is 360 or is it red zone? Decision day, as we've seen in other places, you need to have a red zone show. You need to have a red zone show, frankly, every single week. We've seen what it does with the National Football League. I think 360 should be what it is. Let it breathe. Let people talk. And let Red Zone be Red Zone. You need to have that separate entity. If it's a guy in a room like Scott Hansen, if it's Siciliano like they do on, when they had it on DirecTV, you got to have that one guy that can dance. I think that MLS 360 trying to be a hybrid show needs to keep that breathing room, but there in turn means that I think you've got to have a separate Red Zone idea. Let the talk show be the talk show. Let Red Zone be Red Zone. Let the talk show drift into Red Zone, but Red Zone's got to be for your hardcores. Let's see what kind of adjustments that we end up with as we work forward. Wow, that was a quick first hour. Okay. A couple of notes out of USL Championship here as we turn 10 o'clock. Leland Archer's re-signed with the Charleston Battery for a multi-year deal. And also Calvin Harris Wilson Harris has re-signed. Sorry, I was thinking music. Wilson Harris have agreed to a new multi-year contract at Lou City, and leading scorer for Lou City is there for a second season. So, traditionally here, 10 o'clock on Wednesdays, it's Dylan Butler. And good morning, Dylan.
Hey, how are you?
What is the mug of the day, sir?
Yeah, apparently you can't see because this camera setup on StreamYard is not working again. It's weird. It's weird because in other like Zoom and stuff, it's worked.
That's weird.
So I don't know the technology, but
I don't know the technology either, but that's strange.
It is a Yankee mug, and the funny thing too is it worked. Like I didn't do anything for it to work, and I also didn't do anything for it not to work. So I don't know.
So blame me, basically, is what you're saying.
No.
I think blaming me is a good safe out when it comes to technology. All right. So since you've got the Yankees mug this morning, we've been talking about off-season stuff in Major League Soccer, and apparently the biggest piece of news is not necessarily the biggest piece of news or the biggest surprise, but hey, Luis Suarez and the Messi and friends, that is apparently close to becoming a thing, as they say.
Yeah, and Michelle Kaufman reported as a TAM deal.
TAM deal.
Which
TAM, yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, I will say this. Chris Henderson is a smart and shrewd enough executive, considering everything that's gone haywire in the past and the sanctions. Like he's gonna be above board with what this is, and I think it's an incredible bit of business, and let's get the whole band together, right?
Yeah, I mean, so you get the whole group together, and Abby is making the point that they are the Fort Lauderdale. It is Inter Fort Lauderdale until further notice because they have not moved to Melrose yet. She's not wrong, but you look at, and we were kind of getting into the philosophical part of Inter Miami, and we'll talk playoffs and MLS Cup coming up, obviously.
All that minor stuff.
Yeah, but the philosophical idea of the Moss brothers and Messi and friends is what happens in a year and a half or 2 years when Messi and friends all turn into ambassadors and they finally do retire. Is this something where the Moss brothers and Inter Miami, as they move into a new stadium and try to have folks walking in the door consistently, do they just continue to feed the beast and follow this road? Or do they hit a stopping point and sit there and go, man, we've invested $11 gazillion and we're not getting the return of our investment? Have they stepped in it to a point to where they can't step out of it?
I think when you sign a Messi, I mean, that's a strong sign of your intent. Like, go back to the original big signing, right, in MLS and David Beckham. Like, the Galaxy never, they were hits and misses, obviously, right? But they were always spending large, right? Like they were always going for that big player.
Hmm.
And I think that's going to be the intention of Inter Miami here. Like it's going to be, I mean, and then too, I don't know. You wonder if like you can ideally if you're Beckham and the Moss brothers, you can get additional friends along the way, and then they can get other friends, and like so like even if Messi steps aside, like I'm trying to think of a band. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a band that like continue to get new members and then an older member stayed, but like like it just continued to be like this same organism kind of, and I feel like that ideally is what they want to do, right? Like I don't know if a Neymar's the next kind of guy, right? Or you get Mbappe, right? Like can
Yeah.
an Mbappe then get this other guy, right? And can that other guy then get this next guy? You know what I mean? Like it's almost like tag, like
Yeah,
or
and that's what I was wondering is like, do they just sit there and do the 4x100 relay race
yeah.
and keep handing the baton off and off and off and
I
off
think
and off?
ideally, right? And that way too, you don't have to have a new philosophy or change. Like like NYCFC in its origins had the big name guys, right? Villa and Lampard and Pirlo, and they've gone away, or they haven't they have gone away from that, right? To a different model, if you will. Now maybe they change that when they go into a new stadium because you need to have that big draw of a player in your new fancy stadium, but um, Red Bulls changed that, right? From Thierry Henry and Rafa Marquez and Tim Cahill to um, leaning more on their academy and youth setup, and guys who fit that energy drink soccer way you play, right? So yeah, I mean, I think ideally you for them they want to be in the headlines all the time. They want to be that team that sells all the jerseys, right? Like that gets the butts in the seats. So yeah, I think they're going to aim to try to continue to do that.
And so it's I know a lot of folks are going to be naturally skeptical about getting everybody under this cap figure, but even if Suarez is a TAM, he's going to get an NIL deal, and it's going to be like, okay, so you're gonna have these folks and these folks and these folks, and I think that NIL deal that will be in and around whatever Suarez gets with his TAM deal will help the bottom line when it comes to salary. So it will be interesting. And looking at the numbers, he played like like a gazillion minutes last year
Mm.
in like more games. He played like north of 50 matches and played like 4,500 minutes. I mean, some insane numbers. And he admitted to taking injections and pills to take care of his knees. He ain't going to play 4,200 minutes in Major League Soccer, so he won't have that to worry about.
No, and you would assume those knees also aren't going to hit the turf at Gillette Stadium or, or perhaps at Mercedes Benz or others, right? So
Everybody brings an artificial grass to make sure that he plays every season.
I will say though too, the other part of it is in addition to getting all these like mega stars and having your own like sort of I guess you can't call it FIFA anymore, right? Like it's a different game now, but um
Playoff.
having your own all-star team, like it also, and it happened obviously with Messi, you attract the younger players who want
Right.
to play with those guys. So you
Right.
still do get the youth players and the younger guys and the um the guys who you need as well to further this along, and that happened obviously with Messi, and I think that would continue to happen with other guys of that ilk.
Yeah. All right. So when it came to your bracket for the playoffs, when was it officially busted?
I never actually did one. I should have, though I do believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You and I both predicted the final.
Yes. And
And
I was nowhere close, I don't think.
well, no, well, it was only 4 teams to pick from last week.
Yeah.
Um, and I did have this final.
Yeah, you did.
You had
I think I had
you
I went Houston. I went
did
the,
you go Houston?
I wanted
I thought you went I thought you went LAFC Cincy, but
I try to avoid LAFC at any cost. But no, I think I wanted Houston because I thought they could take care of LAFC, and I think I had Columbus and Houston last week.
okay. So
Uh,
yeah, you were nowhere close.
I was nowhere close. Not really a surprise, but when you looked at the East and the West, what stuck out to you when it came to those conference finals?
Oh, it was all about the East, right? It was hell is real uh delivering, right? Like it's so rare, unfortunately, in sports where you get that kind of dream matchup and it uh delivers what you want and even more. Um, I'm trying to think of like I'm a big Duke. Like St. John's. St. John's is my heart. That's where I went. I'm a big St. John's basketball fan, obviously. But I'm a big Duke fan as well. And it obviously didn't go Duke's way, but like that Duke Carolina Final Four, right? Like that was a great game. Um, you don't get those a lot. And this one delivered in a big way, right? Like it was and good luck following that up, which is what the West had to do. And it obviously fell short of that. Like you were kind of like uh, I don't know if not being a fan of either, you were kind of like all right.
Uh-huh.
You were still kind of basking in like the glow or like like that post Thanksgiving food coma of of the Eastern Conference Final, right? Like what a match.
I and the way it always ends up is that you get it's like when you're dealing with the college basketball tournament in the opening rounds, you'll get like one day that's absolute chaos that you watch all day long. And then the other day is just chalk and everybody's, the 16 has no chance. The 15 gets blown out. The 14 going up against the 3 is nowhere close. It's like you'll get the good day of chaos, and then you'll get the day of chalk that you're not interested in. So we ended up with hell is real, the conference final, and then you end up with LAFC. We went over the numbers on Monday where LAFC, I think, only had like 30% possession, and they're a painful watch sometimes. It's like, I don't know after, whether it was the CONCACAF extravaganza or if it was, Leagues Cup and all these tournaments where Steve Cherundolo just kind of sat there and took the water faucet and just went and just turned it all off.
Mm.
And it's like, it's not a good watch right now. They're
It's
winning.
interesting because that's not what we were used to, right? With LAFC.
Yeah.
We were used to like this high flying, like Rossi and Vela and all those dudes running around and like what a fun team that wanted the ball. They took the ball. They scored a ton of goals. They were fun to watch. They were what Columbus is now.
Yes. Yes.
and
Absolutely.
then they became this like pragmatic um playoff soccer team basically, right? Where it's like let's grab the 1-0 win, let's choke you out, and we're on the day of celebrating again.
I just have this vision now of Steve Cherundolo choking people out and Chiellini, just like in some kind of a triangle choke like we would see on AEW or something like that.
He would do the choke and then he would put his arms up to the ref like, "What do you mean? What? No, I didn't do anything."
No, it's like I let go after before the 4 count. You see the ref
Yeah.
one. It's like the
Or he has the foreign object he throws out of the ring like, "What? No, what are you talking about? Look, check me."
exactly. It's like I got nothing here. You sit there and check all of this, and so it's just I don't know where it changed. But it's just, they are trying to LAFC make it only periodically enjoyable in rushes where Denny Buanga turns clinical and scores, And Carlos Vela apparently wants to just try to draw fouls, shake his head, and have his palms northward going, what's going on here, and why didn't they get the whistle? It's like they've gone heel all of a sudden. They literally have gone heel here.
Yeah, I mean, just it's goals in transition, goals and on set pieces, and that's it. You could have the ball.
It's like who are they? Red Bulls?
Well, they're in the cup final.
Yes, I know. They're in
And
the
they won, so they're certainly not Red Bulls.
no, that is true. But they do act like the ball has cooties, and they don't want anything to do with it.
Yes.
And so it's an odd mix. It's like you end up with the twin brother that is the opposite personality of it's like you got the twin brothers. They're both there. They're both like the preppy dressed guy. The stylish suits and everything, and they have like the same job, but one of them is the life of the party, and the other just wants to like go home and read a book or something.
Yeah. And that guy was the life of the party. So the brother's like, "What happened to you?
Uh-huh.
You used to be so much fun."
Yes. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I just got tired of it all. I want to go home and read a book. So when you look at this matchup where LAFC feels the ball has cooties and they don't want anything to do with it, and Columbus and Wilfred Nancy are more than happy to just, kind of sit there and go, we're going to throw everybody at the ball, and we're just, hey, you know what? We're going to believe in freedom and understanding and, peace, give peace a chance, all that kind of stuff. I mean, literally, they'll throw anybody in the play at any given moment. It's a challenge, I think, for the LAFC backline. What do you see in this matchup coming up?
Yeah, I think for us neutrals, I think Columbus needs to score the first goal.
Yeah.
For it to be a fun kind of game, right? I think if not, it's going to have that choke feel to it, because LAFC will just, if Ryan Hollingshead scores off of a corner in the 6th minute, like, oh, good luck.
It's out. It's done.
Now
mail it in.
Now that said, the glass half full, the optimist will tell you, but look, I mean, it's obviously a different team, but Columbus were down 2-0, right? At Cincinnati, at the Supporters Shield winners, and they still found a way to come back. So maybe there's something special about this team, this Columbus team. So, listen, styles make fights, right? So I think this sets up to be such an intriguing game of a team in Columbus that wants to play the beautiful game and to pass it around and attack free flowingly against an LAFC team that's going to be pragmatic and hit you on the transition. So I think from that standpoint, it sets up to be a terrific final. I mean, Edge home should obviously go to Columbus, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think you could tell me about the juice boxes. I don't follow such things, but I would assume that they're a favorite, but not by much.
Yeah. So since you have brought that up, I will go digging. I will go digging for the Christmas side dishes and see what folks are looking at here when it comes to the juice boxes in this particular matchup. It is Crew at a plus 118. 90-minute draws a plus 245, and LAFC is a plus 223. So Crew favored by a fair poke, as they say in parts of the South.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's the margin for me is really interesting. The fact that Columbus is that close to even money at a plus 118 and LAFC is that far away from them, being on the road, having the experience of playing in finals, all this kind of stuff. I could go 90-minute draw to plus 246 and not necessarily, and I wouldn't have a chance to flinch twice, I would have no problem with that whatsoever. Going 90-minute draw and laying it all out there and going, I'm cool. But that, of course, knowing me, I'm the guy that would sit there and go, I can go with a draw. You sit there and you give me 5. You give me 5 matchups, 3 of the 5, I will probably sit there and go, "Yep, draw." And that would, when we had the Monday night show, that would drive Jason crazy because I would sit there, everybody would be like, "Yeah, you picking a draw?" Yeah, we're not shocked.
Yeah, what's new?
Matt Miazga actually came out publicly and said things. Laurel Fowler, who's done some really good work with what's been going on in Cincinnati.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She says Matt Miazga said he was advised not to speak out during the league's investigation led to his 3-game suspension for misconduct. But now that the process is over, he wanted to publicly take responsibility for what happened. Instead of taking public responsibility, publicly taking responsibility immediately, we're going to wait until after a lot has happened and the season's over before we sit here and say that you're going to take responsibility for what's going on.
I would hope.
yeah.
I would have hoped that message was sent to that locker room earlier,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe at the training ground, or because listen, he's might be defender of the year, but that's like
Yeah.
like dare I say, idiot of the century, like
Yeah.
that. You just screwed the pooch,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
for no good reason.
Mm-hmm.
The first yellow you get because you wanna get a rise out of fans who, by the way, years ago were loving you.
Mm-hmm.
And then because of getting that yellow and the suspension, now you go, crazy. And again, that wrestling analogy, right? Like you're going.
He's the heel. Miazga is the heel.
Oh, but he's always been the heel.
Yes.
He's the international heel. Like
Uh-huh.
he's hated everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when he pulled the move, was it against El Tree, if I remember correctly? Where
Yeah,
he's standing over the guy and he goes like this.
I told you that. Yeah. That was Diego Lainez, who was significantly shorter than him. Yes, but you didn't need to get reminded of it 5 times by Matt Miazga.
And for a guy whose yellow card count has to do with his heel behavior and not because he's going to stick into a tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was what, 2/3 of his yellows this season in Major League Soccer were for behavioral things as opposed to activities.
Yeah.
And so he's end of season interview avail. He goes, my teammates already know this and the coaching staff and, all the technical staff and people in the front office, but I want to take responsibility, obviously, for what has happened. Unfortunately, my intentions didn't really play out to what has actually happened, and I take full responsibility.
What were your intentions when you entered the referee's locker room?
Exactly. My intentions didn't really play out to what has actually happened. What does that mean?
Like, here's pizza, guys. Like, I brought you some food for the post game. Like,
here's a bag that's got some fries and some ketchup, or or here's what does that mean? First off, you sir, are not allowed in that room. Door
and it says it, and in case, like, for those of you who haven't been in the bowels of an MLS stadium, it says that pretty clearly on the outside of those doors. You cannot be mistaken for being allowed in that room.
What, was the door open? You didn't see the sign? Security's right there. It's like, bruh, you're not allowed in here. And what I'm looking at this. My intentions, unfortunately, didn't really play out to what has actually happened. What?
But see, like that, right? So even in a
quotelet, literally, it's like half a sentence.
Even there, you're like, what are you doing?
Uh-huh.
Just say, I was stupid and I hurt my team and I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
I'm disappointed in obviously how the investigation process has taken place and what has come out publicly. But ultimately, I can sit here and talk about details and say this was wrong, that was wrong, but the reality is everything is finished and I take responsibility for what happened and I'm going to learn from this situation. I'm disappointed in obviously how the investigation process has taken place and what has come out publicly.
Yeah.
People
Not in what I did.
I'm disappointed in the process and what came out.
Yes.
What? What? What part of this does not compute? Apparently, all of it. Am I missing something here? I'm sorry that my voice has gone up 3 octaves, and much like Kay Adams on the Peyton and Eli, I might have shattered some speakers.
I was gonna go like, was it Bobby Brady? I was gonna go.
When it's time to change, you've got to. I mean, oh, I'm getting a migraine from this. What part of don't do this do you not understand?
Can you imagine how frustrating it must be to be part of their PR staff? Because like you talk with Matt before, right? You're like, listen, guy, listen,
Bruh.
the media's gonna be there. You could say what you like, but let's make it short and sweet. Give your apology.
You're contrite,
Yeah, yep. And then let that be the end of it. And
or
then he
not,
opens up another can of worms.
or not. Literally, I think that. Do you have Ace Hardware in the Northeast?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, someone should literally just go to Ace Hardware, get him one of those snow shovels, and just hand it to him right before the press conference. Keep digging, brother. I mean, you, dude, you don't did media class just like did you skip that day about contrition in an emergency situation? Am I missing something here? I mean, seriously, am I missing something here where it sounds like you're upset you got caught? You're apologizing not because you did something wrong, but you're apologizing because you got caught. And your coach enabled the whole thing.
Yep.
With what he said. I mean, it's like, seriously? I think I may still have that. I may before you go. I still may have that. Hang on. Yeah, here we go. So I found. I think this is the right quote. But once again, courtesy of our friends at FC Cincinnati and their post game stuff.
Matt made a mistake, and now we're he's paying the consequences. We've had good conversations just internally about moving forward from this and Matt's leadership and the importance of having him on the field. Having said that, I think the punishment is way over the top for the actions that transpired. I think this is something that's unprecedented, and taking everything into account, I think this could have been a heavy fine, and you try to keep your most important players on the field for key games. If you look at the NBA or the NFL, some of these other leagues, are you really taking off your top players in key moments because of things like this? I think you probably don't, and that's not the case here. But again, Matt made a mistake, and now we suffer from it. But I also would love to see some transparency and accountability with the officials. I'm talking about it. At some point, Matt's going to have the opportunity to talk about it. Let's have an official up here talking about what transpired, so it's not just transcript. It's not just, here's the report. I think, we can move forward in a strong way if we have that as well. So it's disappointing, but, I'll try to leave it at that so we can focus on, the game.
Pat Noonan gives me a migraine.
So his having said that part, like if he stopped before that, great.
Mm-hmm.
He spent more after the having said that. Like, I don't know if you have it broken down by seconds, but there was significantly more time spent from having said that to the game than that first part, which is the more important part.
And so basically, and I'm glad I kept that quote. Pat Noonan's basically saying, well, if it was like, oh, I don't know, Nick Hagland, I wouldn't have a problem with this suspension. But it's one of my studs, so I have a problem with this suspension.
And guess what? If anybody in the NFL or the NBA went into the officials' locker room,
Oh,
yeah, they'd also not be on the field.
I mean, it's
This
just
isn't a technical foul ejection. Like,
it's like,
like it's different.
What part of you don't do this do you not understand? Apparently, all of it. This is unprecedented. Yeah, I think it should be a fine. No, it's referee abuse. Minimum 3 games from the federation standards. The federation standards. Oh,
I would almost argue that he. Like, I know you're going to move on, but I would almost argue that.
No, go. I mean, I can hold up the fourth, can hold up the sign and put extra minutes up. I have no problem.
I think if you compare his suspension to Vanni Sartini's suspension,
yeah,
I think he actually got off better.
Yeah,
like I think he should have been suspended longer than Vanni Sartini.
Sartini got 1+5 for a poor joke.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, for me, Miazga getting 3 for charging into the room. And once again, going into if you don't subscribe to what Laurel does, I would recommend it just as a normal kind of a thing. So Laurel did a great blow by blow on how things went down, and her breakdown. PSRA, Miazga gained unauthorized entry into the officials' locker room, needed to be forcibly removed. Peter Manikowski from the PSRA comes out and says what he says. Pat Noonan then intimates that some of the details had been fabricated, and Manikowski apparently was looking into that kind of a further investigation of that. And it's 5 times in the account by the PSRA, Matt Miazga is told, you got to get out of here. You're not supposed to be in here. 5 times. Miazga says at least twice, I want to talk to the blanking referee. And it took him to be being forcibly removed 80 minutes after the match is over with either a pizza box or a brown paper bag or both. That someone from the staff finally goes into the room, tracked him down, and goes, basically, dude, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be in here. And for Noonan to say that some of the details, some of the stuff in the report had been fabricated, I mean, really? Seriously.
I mean, he was clearly in the room, right?
Yeah, and that's at least 3. That by federation standards is 3 at least. That's at least 3. And Vanni Sartini, for an awful joke, it was not called for. Yeah. Got 1+5 and a fine. And Matt Miazga, who storms into a place you're not supposed to be in, like literally, it is like the fortress of solitude in soccer. You do not go in that room. Matt Miazga goes past security, or security was looking in another direction or something, of RBA, and goes in, and I want to talk to the effing referee, and gets 3. I think he got off easy.
Yeah, me too.
So what's up with varsity media and MLS soccer and things not having to do with FC Cincinnati?
Yeah, just final coming up. So varsity media, a little bit of a hiatus until basketball starts after the new year, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Recharge batteries a little bit.
Yep.
And then we go hard in January with hoops and but yeah, MLS Cup final Saturday. That's what it's all going to be about leading up. I got a story coming up, I think later today, on LAFC's road to the Cup on MLSsoccer.com. Just sort of 5 big moments, or 5 big kind of things that helped pave their way there.
Well, as always, my friend, it's great to have you on when Wednesdays turn into midweek and we got big things. And next week, next week you're safe because I have high school football championships.
Nice.
So I will be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I will lose 10 pounds and then get it all back going home because I will stop at Waffle House and have the biggest plate of hash browns known to mankind when the championships are over.
Attaboy.
So we will catch up with you in a couple of weeks, my friend. And when you come back in 2 weeks, we'll talk about MLS Cup and other stuff. Be safe, okay?
Yeah, you too.
All right, that's Dylan. Dylan and I, yeah. Yeah. I mean, Rich, I know it's called it's spin, but it is the most ill-informed spin known to mankind. It is ill-informed. Absolutely ill-informed. And if you think, if you legitimately think that it should be a fine for going into a referee's fortress of solitude, then either you don't know the rules or you think the rules should apply to other folks. Especially the comment about if it was, do you want to keep your stars out of, you want to keep your stars out of games. That kind of stuff. You've got to have more composure about going into an officiating space. Actually, you don't go into an officiating space. Hour and a half after the game where he's got a pizza box in his hand, I think people have this notion he's in his cleats running into that room. Well, it sounded like he did. And there was apparently video that was a part of the decision-making process. There's a lot that's been fabricated, what's happened, and that part's also disturbing. So hopefully we can come to a conclusion that has him back on the field. That was back when all this stuff happened. And the MLSPA has come out and said, that obviously that there are fabrications and such. And we have yet to hear from the MLSPA about what specifically those fabrications are. Because, I mean, the journalist in me, will sit there and go, okay, great, fine. You can't get away with saying that anymore. You can't just sit there and say, I don't care who you are. Well, this is a fabrication. Okay, well, what's fabricated? Well, no, you got to tell me what's fabricated. The MLSPA has yet to come out after their statement. They have yet to come out and say what's wrong. They have not come out and said what's wrong. They have not. Nothing. At least I haven't seen them sit there and go, what's up? Condemning the behavior of the PSRA and certain PSRA members with regard to the November 4 incident at Red Bull Arena. Both the match report approved by the officials and the statements released by the PSRA regarding the incident contained material falsehoods. Since then, the PSRA has not only failed to correct these falsehoods, its president has continued to repeat them publicly. What are they? Well, that's not for us to say. Yeah, it is. I understand and respect your right to protect and be there on behalf of your players. But as a journalist, I cannot let that go by. Tell me what they are. And don't just sit there and say, well, they're in there. No, you got to tell me what they are. You're the one that has asserted this. You, MLSPA, have asserted this. Paragraph 1. Match report approved regarding the incident contained material falsehoods. What are they? What are they? We have not heard word one from the MLSPA on this. No discipline has been announced for the referee submitting the match report with multiple false statements. What are they? No discipline has been announced to address stadium security breakdown that allowed the incident to occur in the first place. Red Bull Arena, yeah, you got some answering to do on that. But what are the material falsehoods? What are they? What are the material falsehoods? We've yet to hear from the MLSPA on that. And that was a statement that was released about a week ago, November 30th. And you know what? From November 30 on the 280 character app, only one thing has been posted by the MLSPA. And the MLSPA doing right by Alvis Powell. 4-line statement: online racist abuse has no place in our world or our league. We stand with Alvis and condemn anyone who spreads racist hate online. Those who engage in online abuse should be identified and banned from our stadiums. Check. I agree. Everyone should agree for something like that. But since the statement on Matt Miazga, November 30, that statement 2 days ago is the only thing that has been posted to the MLSPA's 280 character platform. What material falsehoods are they? We don't know. They have not said. So that's what we have in line with the MLSPA. Man. Abby, would be a much longer suspension. Should have been longer than 3 in her opinion. Abby, Noonan wasn't there, or was he? How would he know it was fabricated? That's, once again. Fabrications, what are they? Well, I mean, as a journalist, I've got to ask. What are they? MLSPA, material falsehoods, what are they? No word from either party. Yeah, and Abby, you're right. Security needs to be called on the carpet for everything that happened, because apparently a younger security guy, with all the madness going on, went to go file a report or grab a superior or something. He left his post. RBA security then, obviously they did apologize, but it had gotten out of hand. Yes, high school basketball season. That's, Rich, basically for me, when we're talking high school basketball, don't talk to me until after the first of the year when you get to region play or group play or area play or whatever you call it up in the Northeast. Here it's regions. But yeah, region, right now you're in non-region play and you get the holiday tournaments and things like that. After the holiday tournaments, that's when I start paying attention. Yes, for the Carousel machine to work, that means all the world is right at MBS, but I won't be anywhere near it. I think we should find the Carousel machine and suspend. The Carousel machine has been suspended. I don't know if it's been fined, but I'm hoping that the Carousel machine works in the press box. I don't know if it'll be on during the championships or not, but yeah, next week. That reminds me. Both depends on divisions in public and private. Thank you, Rich. Posted on Miazga maybe before they had all the facts, But once again, you need to come out with an apology, a public apology. Yeah, we initially thought that there were falsehoods in the report. We were misled. Something PR-ish like that. Next week, going to be a little weird because of the high school football championships. I will be here Monday. And obviously that's the start of the transfer window, the free agent market, trading deadline, all those kinds of things. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll be with you Monday morning. Then Monday afternoon, the crew will have their afternoon wrap-ups. A combination of Jason, Drew, Maddie, everybody will be filing stuff with trades and things like that. Same thing on Tuesday and Wednesday. It'll be something early morning update with Jason, or some combination of Jason, Maddie, and Drew. They'll do a morning update Tuesday and Wednesday. Then they'll come back with an afternoon update on Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday, it'll be a power hour because I got to catch a flight. Then it'll be a power hour in the afternoon, or a tape in the afternoon. Once again, Jason, Maddie, Drew, about what's going on because we're in trade windows and free agency and re-entry drafts and all that kind of stuff. Same thing on Friday. I'll be up for a power hour from Washington, D.C. next Friday. So it'll be power hours in the morning. So morning stuff, afternoon stuff, because we're in that trade window and all the information and folks moving around and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be activity in the morning, activity in the afternoon, all week long, but it'll be more information-based that'll be on the network. So set your notifications. Morning might be a morning show, might be a little later. Just keep your notifications squared, and we'll let you know what's going on with all of that. Once again, reminder, that we have reissued, and I've got to post this to social media. I know I have to. That we have reissued the Atlanta is American soccer scarf. It is being reissued for the holidays to help out our friends with the Marshall Islands. Step 1 of 2 right here, and I'll post it to the Twitters and the boxes here, and the Abstermobile as one of its final acts will help out with domestic shipping. So 25 and 5 if you're interested. And Abby has graciously said that the Abstermobile would help out with shipping and delivering for the holidays. So just let me know, and I'll release it out on social media about what's going on. So, okay, yesterday. Now that wow, we haven't even caught up on all the other stuff. See where we go down on tangents. Okay, all right. Stephen Fry signed a new deal with Seattle, and we'll talk to Nico about that tomorrow. 2-year deal through 25. He was out of contract, and so we'll talk to Nico about that tomorrow. LA Galaxy have named Will Kuntz as general manager. Greg Vanney is going to return to his primary role as head coach. Will continue to guide the technical, and this is from the club. Will continue to guide the technical vision of the club, including sporting methodology and coaching methodology, while managing the first team staff and the sports performance department. Kuntz and Vanney will collaborate on all major soccer operations decisions for Los Angeles. Now, Kuntz will be responsible for soccer operations from the first team through the academy, including scouting, player acquisitions, salary cap, and budget. He initially joined the Galaxy as senior VP of player personnel in April after leaving LAFC. Quote from Kuntz, 2 paragraphs, reporting directly to AEG president and CEO Dan Beckerman. 6 years at LAFC, he was senior VP of soccer ops and assistant GM. Greg Vanney with a quote, LA finished 13th. So Houston, Philly, Seattle, roster updates, what we know. Houston, Corey Baird, Griffin Dorsey, out of contract, eligible for free agency. Ivan Franco heading back to Libertad after his season-long loan. Teenage Hadibi, originally signed as a designated player in 21, saw his contract option declined after 51 matches with the club. Houston has 21 players on the roster, negotiating with select players about their return. That figure includes Sebastian Ferreira, had a lackluster loan spell at Vasco da Gama. Contract options exercised. Caicedo, Schmidt, Olfarsson, Xavier Valdez. Declined. Achara, Auguste, Avila, Hadibi, Morana, Rios, Matias Vera. Out of contract, Baird and Dorsey. Seattle. Contract options exercised. Once again, we'll get into this more in depth with Nico tomorrow. Atencio, Arriaga, Castro, Yamar, João Paulo, Jackson Reagan, Rothrock, Rusnak, Tevis, and Thomas. Options declined. Cleveland, Double Air, Abear. Out of contract, Sissoko, Ladero, Montero, Kellen Rowe. Philadelphia. Options exercised. Carranza, Donovan, Flock, Lowe, Raffanello, Torres, Holden, Trent. Sorensen declined. Out of contract, Bedoya, Bendick, Wagner. Conversations with 2 of those 3. Minnesota United. We'll get into Minnesota United. Apparently, they're going to stick with their interim coach as their interim coach to begin the season. DC United's going to seek new energy in life. Charlie Baum's got a piece up with Ali Mackay. Sean McCauley is going to stay as interim head coach in Minnesota heading into the 24 season. And remember, Khalid El Ahmad comes from Barnsley in January. So they're still without an on-site CFO and sporting director until January, until the January window when Khalid El Ahmad comes from Barnsley. El Ahmad will determine the timing and lead the process of the head coach search. Initially, El Ahmad was expected to arrive later in 2024. But Sean McCauley is going to remain interim head coach to start the 2024 season. Interim head coach with 2 matches remaining in 23, previously an assistant with the Purple Team and the Timbers. Missed out on the playoffs. But Sean McCauley is going to stay as interim head coach heading into the 24 season. All caps signed goalkeeper Christian Oliveras. from their MLS Next Pro side, competing for a backup role with Roman Berkey. Your number one, Ben Lunt, was there as well. And All Caps also signed Kyle Hebert to a new contract as well. So a couple of pieces of moves there. We mentioned Frank Klopas yesterday, and we're keeping an eye on Transfer Tracker. But okay, so there you go. Philadelphia Union open to an Alejandro Bedoya return. It has to be a fit, according to Jim Curtin. Have to find a solution that's best for Alejandro, that makes sense for the club, that makes sense for him, his family, and that's our hope. Remember that initially Ernst Tanner said with about 6 weeks to go in the season, Bedoya wasn't coming back. Then in the playoffs, in the postseason, Jim Curtin said, no, I think there was a miscommunication there. Now we're to version 3, where it says we'll have to find a solution best for Alejandro, makes sense for the club, makes sense for him, his family, and that's our hope. In October, once again, it wasn't supposed to be any kind of an extension. But we'll see what happens there. Rich is looking to sign a big-name DP for his Philadelphia Union. So in the post season presser, response to the question, what will it take to take the next step? What do you think it'll take to take the next step with this group? I love that our group is playing for things all the time. Quote, do I think that this group can win a championship? I do. I do think we can win with the way we do things. I think we do punch above our weight. I still believe very much that we can lift MLS Cup. So Rich is looking for the signing of a big-name DP to go with that quote from Ernst Tanner and from Jim Curtin. Emilio says the dude that Tanner looks like James Taylor with hair. Rich says 80% chance Kai Wagner returns. Okay, so we'll see what happens there with all of that. Busy day today across the board. And we'll get into juice boxes overseas in England here. And we'll get into what you can watch and where you can watch it. 6 matches in the midweek. We've got 2 more tomorrow. And then the weekend picks back up with 6 and 4. So nothing like 3 matches in a week. Today, Brighton and Brentford at the Amex. Brighton's a minus 111. Your 90-minute draw, your 90-minute draws a plus 293. Brentford's about the same to win outright. Crystal Palace and Bournemouth. Bournemouth is a plus 241 on the road. Draws about the same. Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park's a plus 123. Fulham a plus 106. The numbers are changing as I go. So if they've changed after I've read it, I'll let you know. Fulham a plus 106 at Craven Cottage hosting Forest. Forest is a plus 290. Draws a plus 243. Sheffield United with Chris Wilder in charge, hosting Liverpool at Bramall Lane. It will be interesting to see how the team responds after getting thumped by Burnley on the weekend. And we had our first sacking of the season. Sheffield United a plus 1364. Liverpool on the road at minus 526. Draws a plus 724 and dropping. 3:15, you've got 2 starts. Villa hosting Manchester City. Manchester City's probably going to be hot after what happened last time with the draw. Villa's a plus 374. Manchester City's a minus 143. Draws a plus 332. Manchester United and Chelsea, your marquee matchup at 3:15. Chelsea a plus 149 on the road at Old Trafford. Road favorite Chelsea. Manchester United a plus 185, and your draw is a plus 259. What to watch and where to watch it. And we will break all of that down. Obviously, you can have the Premier League matches all over the place. BN has Marseille and Lyon at 3 o'clock. If you don't have BN, you don't have a CDO, TIC for the fans, Gold TV. You can pick that up at Fanatiz, fntz.co/soccer down here. And it will help you out. It will help out the network. It will help Fanatiz with subscribers and a lot of the sicko divisions. You get to see the Brasileiro as well. And if you don't have it and you need to pick it up, Jason got me hooked on it. I blame him. Hearts and Rangers in the Premiership in Scotland at 3 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. DFB Pokal, Stuttgart and Borussia Dortmund at 2:30 on the Deuce. Fulham and Forest is your game on USA at 2:30. Being an Espanol simulcasting the Ligue 1 match. Semifinals in the Apertura tonight on 2 to NA at 9:30. Atletico San Luis and Club America. On the Plus, Belgian Cup at 2:30. 4 matches in the DFB Pokal, doubleheader at noon and doubleheader at 2:30. Copa del Rey has 1, 2, 4, 6, 8 matches. The Copa del Rey, and the Copa del Rey got started at 8 o'clock this morning, local time. And they've got other matches going on. Apparently, they had one at 6 o'clock local time. At 6 o'clock a local time here. 11 o'clock this morning. 2 that are at halftime now. And you'll have 2 at 1 o'clock, 2 at 3 o'clock. Paramount Plus, Asian Champions League, had 2 matches at 7 o'clock this morning. Big day in the Brasileiro. Everybody starts all at once. Everybody at 7:30. So you need your multi-viewer for the Brasileiro and the craziness that is going on in the table there. We'll get into that in a sec. Copa Italia is at 3. Villarreal and Maccabi Haifa is at 3 o'clock as well from Europa League. Peacock has your other matches that are not on USA when it comes to the Premier League. 3 others at 2:30 and the 2 at 3:15. So Brasileiro, let me get into that for a second. I want to let you into the chaos that is the Brasileiro. With all of the matchups going on, you've got the one at 5 o'clock with Goiás and America. Then you have 9 matches at 7:30. 9 matches are at 7:30 tonight. Multi-viewer. So your standings. You have the 4 teams that are 3 of the 4 teams we know are going to be relegated. And Goiás and America are 2 of those teams, and that's why they're playing early to get out of the way. Bahia is at 41 points, and they play Atleti, who is second in the table, chasing after the top spot. Bahia needs points to not be relegated. Vasco is taking on Bragantino. They need points so they don't get relegated, or they have to better Bahia's or match Bahia's result. Santos, 2 points ahead of Bahia, gets Fortaleza. And so right now, Santos needs to at least match or better Bahia's result to stay afloat. Then you end up with 9 through, well, let's take it this way. 9, 10, and 11 are separated by 2 points. 12, 13, and 14 are separated by 2 points. Then into the playoff positions, Fluminense at 7 is ahead of Atletico Paranaense on wins. So if they match Atletico Paranaense, they advance, they stay 7. Atletico Paranaense would stay 8th. Fluminense is ahead on wins. That's the only category that they're ahead of Atletico on. They're behind in goal difference. They're behind in goals scored, but they have 2 more wins. So Fluminense, Atletico Paranaense, if they're tied on points, Fluminense would be the higher placed team. Bragantino, Botafogo, and Grêmio all separated by 3 points. Bragantino plays Vasco, 20 points below them and trying to stave off relegation. So Bragantino trying to better Botafogo, who has drawn their last 5. They're playing Internacional, who's won their last 3. Grêmio has a match against Fluminense. That's a tough one for Grêmio, so they need to match the result of the folks behind them to stay in 4th. Then the top spot. Palmeiras is on top at 69 points. Nice. They've won 3 of 4. Atletico and Flamengo are at 66 points. Atletico and Flamengo have the same number of wins right now. Then they're ahead on goal difference. So you've got to keep an eye on wins and goals. It's an 8 margin goal. So, in theory, Atletico, if they match Flamengo, they should be second. But you've got chaos going on in the Brasileiro, and you can watch it all unfold on Fanatis tonight and on Paramount Plus as well for the last day of the Brasileiro regular season. So, yes, chaos in the Brasileiro. Watch it on Paramount Plus or watch it on and watch it in other places. So gossip, rumor, and innuendo, now that we have told you how crazy the Brasileiro is today. And so if I could actually, I don't know, get the right thing squared away here and I could tell you what's going on. All right, so gossip, rumor, and innuendo, things left unsaid before we go. And thanks for hanging out with us and, workshopping everything going on with our friends at MLS Soccer and Apple TV. Bayern will face competition from at least 2 Premier League clubs for Joao Palhinha at Fulham in January. Bayern may miss out on Bayer Leverkusen's midfielder Florian Wirtz, with Manchester City and Liverpool determined to sign him. We mentioned Luis Suarez. Newcastle could sign 5 players in January, with a goalkeeper their top priority. That's from the 3-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. But folks are saying David De Gea could be one of those folks, even though Eddie Howe, when asked, said that he has faith in Martin Dubravka for the next 4 months while Nick Pope recovers. Former Wolves manager Julian Lopetegui, who's been linked with Manchester United, turned down a deal with €18 million per season from Al Ittihad because he wants to return to the Premier League. It would take a bid of at least £60 million for Villa to consider selling Douglas Luiz. Arsenal continuing to show interest. Villa have put a £110 price tag on Luiz. Arsenal and Liverpool sent scouts to watch Bayer Leverkusen's Jeremy Frimpong on Sunday. Real Sociedad, favorites to sign Manchester United's Mason Greenwood, who's on loan at Getafe, but a permanent switch to Getafe is unlikely because of the potential fee involved. Manchester United's Donny van de Beek has offered himself to Barcelona as a replacement for the injured Gavi. That's great. Hey, Barca, I'm right here. I'd love to be a part of your future. See, I'm right here. I don't have a whole lot of tread on the tires, but, Barca, if you're interested, right here. Manchester United given the opportunity to sign Borussia Dortmund winger Daniel Malen if Jadon Sancho leaves. Crystal Palace will scrap plans to sign a striker in January following Czech Decore's potentially season-ending injury. So they're going to go midfielder first. Wolves interested in Sevilla's defender Marcos Acuna, estimated to be worth €12 million, £10.3 million. Sao Paulo open to offers for Liverpool target Lucas Beraldo. Wolves had a bid rejected in the summer for the 20-year-old Brazil defender. Juve willing to let the 20-year-old English winger Samuel Ealing Jr. leave in January. Tottenham and Newcastle are interested. West Ham lead Everton and Brighton in the race for 17-year-old Northern Ireland under-17 striker Aidan Doherty. So that's your gossip, rumor, and innuendo today. Oh, by the way, yesterday, the inherent craziness that was going on, I give Luton Town a lot of credit. They're going to have to get points at home, and they're going to have to steal some on the road. But yesterday, with the craziness at Kenilworth Road, and they were a plus 1,500 underdog, plus 615 on the draw, losing a 7-goal shootout to Arsenal 4-3 at the end. Arsenal wins it at a minus 476. Wolves beat Burnley 1-0 yesterday at a minus 108. So at the moment, Arsenal is 5 points clear of Liverpool, 6 points clear of Manchester City, who have drawn their last 3 after going 9-0-2 to start the season. So your top Arsenal 11-3-1 through 15, Liverpool 31 points, Manchester City is at 30, Aston Villa 29, Spurs at 27 after breaking their 3-match losing streak last time out with a draw. So we got those 6 matches today in the Premier League, and you've got all of that stuff. But also, it's Charlotte. We hadn't gotten into the Charlotte ideas of who they were looking at for negotiations for head coach. And it appears that Dean Smith and Frank Lampard are among the candidates for Charlotte FC's vacant coaching position. Luis Michel Echegaray, Ashley Mahoney, top bin 90. Charlotte FC's interviewed Frank Lampard and Dean Smith, former Villa manager and former NYCFC manager, Chelsea legend Frank Lampard. They're on the short list. So the short list for the Charlotte gig is with those two. Lampard last coached as Chelsea's caretaker at the end of last season. Before that, he was at Everton. We all know what he did as a player. Finally, you're playing at NYCFC, so he knows about what's going on. Charlotte FC, according to Top Bin 90, will make their decision on who their next coach will be in the next 2 weeks. Questions that I have in this. One, who is making the decision? How top down is this decision? Is this a David Tepper decision on Dean Smith or Frank Lampard, or does he have something else in mind? Is the individual that is going to be the new head coach at Charlotte FC, is this going to be an individual that is going to listen to David Tepper? Because the individuals that will be the head coach at Charlotte FC presumably have more soccer knowledge than David Tepper does. But David Tepper wants to be Jerry Jones. David Tepper wanted to draft Bryce Young, apparently, over C.J. Stroud. Do you want to be in that kind of an environment? Do you want to be in an environment with that front office? How much control are you going to get? Do you get control of the reins? That's the question. How much control are you going to have when it comes to personnel? So all of that is going to be part of the discussion involving individuals who are going to want to be the head coach at Charlotte FC. Do you want to coach to where you're going to have an owner who's going to be engaged and involved when the coach presumably knows far more about the sport and philosophy than the owner does? Do you want to deal with that front office? Do you want to deal with the owner? That, to me, would be the first question in all of this. So we'll see what happens. Rich, as a public service, has pointed out the article on Luis Suarez that was posted by Felipe in The Athletic. So if you have a subscription and wish to take a bite out of that article, please feel free. Tomorrow, Nico Moreno joining us at 10:30. We'll go through everything else that's been going on today. Obviously, we'll talk about what happens today. We'll go over what happens tomorrow. New England is having discussions as well when it comes to their head coaching search. And there are a couple of familiar names that are out there. And before I go, let me go to the Blazing Musket and get all that info. And by the way, our friends at RAFC, they're signing folks. As a matter of fact, I got one of those, because I've wanted to keep an eye on what's going on with RAFC. And by the way, if you want to keep an eye on everything with RAFC and you sign up for their email blast, you get a robocall from JJ Williams. I got a robocall from JJ Williams from our Rhode Island FC. Welcome, anticipating the season, all that kind of stuff. Hartford signed Charleston midfielder Joe Schmidt, breakout rookie season for the Battery in 22. And JJ Williams is signed. They still think that Everett is a viable spot for a soccer-specific stadium. Cardinalfo told the media late last week that it's a combination. He wants to hire a head coach before preseason, obviously. Seth McComber over at Blazing Musket. Caleb Porter, Robin Frazier, Dominic Kinnear, and Bob Bradley. They are the ones being considered. Tom Quinlan was first from WPRO on the Caleb Porter news. Dominic Kinnear is a current assistant coach at Cincinnati FC. He's got experience, but he hasn't coached for a couple of years, and I think last time it was as a caretaker, if I remember correctly. One with the Earthquakes in 01 and 03, and with the Dynamo in 06 and 07, but he's been an assistant ever since. So Robin Frazier, Caleb Porter, Dominic Kinnear, Bob Bradley. And Cardinalfo wants us to all sort through the baloney and make sure that we know that they're going to sign a new head coach by training camp in January. If you missed it, we caught up with our friends from Huntsville City Football Club, Liam Doyle, the chief soccer officer and major guru for business operations, managing director of business operations, Chad Emerson. It was a great conversation with them as they get ready for the blast off in February. 4 teams coming to Hunt City to play on 2 days at Joe Davis. It is FC Tulsa, it is Hunt City, it is Chattanooga FC, it is South Georgia Tormenta. And those 4 squads are going to be up at the blast off in February. We caught up with them to find out about what it's been like in year number 1 for Hunt City and what they're learning going into year number 2. And cool news out of Tormenta, they're starting a unified squad. And so you can go on social media. And if you know anybody in East Georgia that might be interested in being a part of Tormenta Unified, there's definitely ways to reach out and be a part of that as well. Oh, wow. Okay, so we really have gone over. Thanks to everybody for hanging out with us this morning. Thanks to Dylan Butler, as always. Once again, we're reissuing this scarf. We're reissuing the Atlanta is American Soccer scarf for the holidays. I'll post it on social media because I know I need to. 25 and 5 in the Epstermobile is going to help out with getting everybody theirs here in the Atlanta area if it's close by. So thanks for being with us again for another show. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. Since it is the end of the show, that means that I get to do this and put all the baloney aside. We'll be back at it again 9:05 tomorrow morning to go through everything in the world of soccer. Play it safe, everybody. Mucha platial. That means I get to do this. Or maybe play the outro instead of the intro. Take 2.